Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Championship Showcase, Secrets for Success, from the playing field of competition to the field of life. We're speaking with inspirational sports leaders, former athletes, coaches, administrators, sports psychologists, and related professionals who are sharing their life strategies and empowering messages of hope and purpose to support those athletes that are seeking to make a successful transition from the playing field of competition to the field of life. My name is Dominic Militello, and we're so glad you can join us. We have a real treat for you today, folks, so let's jump right in. Today we're speaking with the incomparable Simon Keith. Simon holds the distinction of being the first athlete in the world to play a professional sport after going a heart transplant. Simon was just 21 when in July of 1986 he received the heart of a 17-year-old boy from Wales who ironically died while playing soccer. Simon, a world-class soccer player prior to the operation, was determined to return to his normal and made his return a year later to competitive soccer, playing at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. After playing 2 seasons with the Rebels, Simon garnered many honors, including being named Student Athlete of the Year for the conference and USA's Most Courageous Athlete. After his senior season, Simon was named the most valuable player at the Senior Soccer Bowl and was the overall #1 draft pick in the Major Indoor Soccer League just 3 years after his heart surgery. Now one of the longest living organ transplant recipients in the world and one of the most notable professional athletes of his time, Simon travels across the country captivating audiences with his moment of truth speeches and daring people to live. In 2011, he founded the Simon Keith Foundation, an organization dedicated to increasing organ donor awareness and educating transplant recipients. Simon has recently published his biography detailing this most unique journey, Heart for the Game. He uses proceeds from the book and speaking engagements to provide athletic training for other transplant recipients who choose to return to an active and healthy lifestyle. In addition to his philanthropic efforts and professional soccer career, he is a successful entrepreneur who has appeared in Forbes magazine and been featured on ESPN. Simon is currently the Chief Operating Officer for the Nevada Donor Network, the organ procurement organization responsible for the coordination, recovery, and allocation of life-saving organs, tissues, and corneas. Simon is married to Kelly and has 3 children, Sarah, Samantha, and Sean. That's a mouthful. We're very fortunate and thrilled to have Simon Keith with us. Simon, welcome to the showcase.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here, and that is a mouthful, man.
Well, we know you're very busy, and we really appreciate you spending time with us. And I have to say, I've said to a couple of other of our guests that most of us would call getting to the post office and grocery store a busy day. How are you able to do so much, Simon?
Well, it's funny, the success doesn't come very easily. You got to grind it out. You got to work every day. And so, I'm an early riser, and it's always worked for me, and that is just outwork everybody else around you. So,
nice.
So that's the secret, man. There's no easy way, but I feel like I got 3 full-time jobs, and I just grind every day. That's the fun of it.
There's no magic pill, huh?
There's no silver bullet, man. I wish there was, because then I'd take it.
Well, just so our listeners know, you and I were teammates on that UNLV, at UNLV 1987 to 88, the league championship team in 87. And before we get into talking about you, let's just take a second here, and just out of curiosity, what kind of teammate was I? What do you remember about me being a teammate?
Dom was a great teammate, that had the intangible of bringing people together. Always have a smile on your face, which you probably still do today. Just a connector of people and a connector of teammates. And that intangible is tough. It's impossible to measure. You can play a little bit too, but let's not get carried away here.
Well, listen, I appreciate those kind words. For those listening, Simon, who may not be as aware with your story as we are, will you share a little bit about your upbringing and your background?
Yeah, sure, of course. So, short story. Born in England, raised in Canada, on the West Coast. I grew up in a family with 2 other brothers, so there were 3 of us. And my dad was a school teacher, professional soccer coach, My oldest brother played for the Canadian Olympic soccer team. My next oldest brother played for the Canadian Olympic soccer team and has also had a short stint professionally. So it was not a long shot that I was an athlete and a soccer player. I was a runt of the litter. I was very small for my age, and spent most of my formative years looking up to these two guys in my house, two brothers, and all I did every day was just sort of try to keep up with them athletically and academically, and I spent my life being, without a doubt, the fourth best player in our household. Many days I was the fifth or sixth because my mom could play a bit and my dog could play a bit. So I grew up in that environment, very competitive, very athletic, and in hindsight, I see that it built this drive in me that seems to be fairly unique.
Well, it sounds like you almost didn't have a choice except to be competitive. What were some of the lessons early on that your brothers and maybe even your parents taught you about competition?
Well, another one of our teammates, of course, my brother Adam was 13 months older than me. So, but he was a lifetime older than me. He was supremely talented, and he was probably, and I don't exaggerate, the best player in Canada when he was 16 years old. Everybody included, including men. He was that good. He was a phenom, and he was that good. So Adam would, I'll give you an example. We had this competition where in the city and then the state and the country called the Adidas competition, and you try to keep the ball off the ground by juggling it using your feet or your thighs, or your head or whatnot. And of course Adam was great at it. So he always held the house record, which would be, one day it was, we were 11 years old. So one day it was 72. And I would spend 3 weeks practicing every day after school for hours and hours on end. I can remember wearing the grass out in one certain spot, and I would finally beat him, and I would run in the house because I was the king now, right? I did 85. Now I'm the king.
Right.
So I ran in the house and said I did 85, and Adam, of course, who hadn't touched the ball in 3 weeks while I've been practicing like crazy, steps out back on the front yard and promptly does 165. As an example. So then, of course, it takes me 3 more weeks to get to 195, and I run in the house again. And so this went on throughout my life that it was almost like my young life. No matter how good I did, it didn't even get outside the house. What I learned later on in life, that being the fourth best player in my house wasn't so bad overall.
Right. Well, great story. And just so our listeners know, Adam was part of that UNLV team too, those 2 years that you and I were both there in 87 and 88, and actually scored a huge goal for us in the NCAA tournament. So make sure you tell him I said hello when you see him next.
I will.
You mentioned coaches and mentors. You mentioned your dad being a coach, your mom playing. Who were some of your maybe other coaches or mentors while you were growing up and competing that had left an impression on you?
Yeah, it's tough when inside your household is, my dad, just to put it in perspective, my dad was an assistant coach of the Canadian national team, the World Cup team. So he was the provincial coach and the national coach. And so that's a pretty big shadow that's cast. The nice thing that my dad did when I was younger was he coached me for a little bit. Then I got to about 12 years old, and he decided I needed to hear somebody else's voice, and he gave me to a couple other young guys, and I played with them for a couple of years, and then to another couple of young guys, and I was coached by them for a couple of years. And that's no easy feat when you know that you're really a great coach and you're giving your kids over to somebody else. So that trust was important. But coaches are all different. They all provide different things for different people at different times.
Right.
Again, a coach that we shared, Barry Bartow, one of the strengths that our UNLV soccer coach possessed for me was, he treated me normally. He treated me like everybody else, which at the time was really important and really difficult to do. And I appreciated that. So he allowed me the space to thrive and figure things out by myself, and wasn't heavy-handed, but he was. Anyways, so, we all have lots of different coaches, and we get little tidbits from all of them throughout life. And that's the secret, right? Taking the good stuff from all of them and incorporating it in your world.
Exactly. Just like as parents now, right? We take what we liked from our parents and incorporate those that we didn't think went so well for us. Maybe we didn't use, but exactly.
Right.
So, love the message. Take us through your career. You were obviously a phenomenal athlete. Take us through high school, college, and maybe tell us a little bit about what happened with your heart and your heart transplant.
Okay, great. So again, grew up in a very soccer-rich environment in Western Canada, and right after high school, I went to play in London and signed a professional contract and played professionally and for a team called Millwall, which is in the third division in the UK, which is a very, very good level. And was kind of making my way and playing well and making some money and living in London. And, life was pretty good at 17 and 18 and 19 years old.
Sure.
I got a call from the World Cup coach for Canada, and, Canada had qualified, was in the midst of qualifying for the World Cup in 1986. And the coach was really interested in me being part of that program. So I moved back to Canada, trained with the team full time. And then things kind of went south on me. I got sick. I sort of fought it for about a year and a half, stayed in denial about what was really going on. And the long story short is that, I needed a heart transplant, sort of in the beginning/middle of my career. And so I got one. So I was lucky to get one. It's a difficult, riddle to solve. And I was very, very fortunate to get not only get one, but to get a good one and one that matched me perfect and one that I could take on and be my own. And then one of the docs said to me that, the goal now is to resume the life that you led before you were sick. And I had to break the news to him that I played professional soccer. And he sort of took a step back and said, well, maybe not so much. And I said, no,
Right.
too late. You already told me. So that was the goal once I got the ticker.
So that was a belief that you just had right from the get-go with the new heart, that you were determined to get back to the same level that you were prior to the accident and the surgery. And tell us what happened.
Well, so I do believe in this. I mean, I've written about this and talked about this. People have to define their life by their own rules. And so I heard all the stats and I heard all the anecdotes about different people and who had been successful and who hadn't been successful after heart transplant. And I just kind of decided that I wasn't going to limit myself. I was going to do everything I could to become no, that's not true. I wasn't going to let this thing, whatever this was, this heart transplant, define me. I wasn't going to let it make me handicapped. I wasn't going to let it make me lesser than I was before. So I didn't. So I put on blinders and like we talked earlier, you got to outwork everyone else.
Yeah.
So
right.
I did.
Right. Well, and you went on to have a pretty remarkable career at the collegiate level and playing in the major indoor soccer league. What was it like to sign the contract with Cleveland and play professionally with the attention that you had? I know you probably wouldn't have liked the attention surrounding the heart because you wanted just to be like everybody else, but what was going on, or what was your mindset during that time?
Yeah, it was a mixed blessing, right? I mean, I had I was able to recover and get healthy at UNLV and play a little bit and have some fun and drink some beer, and that was good. That's what I needed at that time. And then once the indoor stuff came and the professional soccer on the outdoor side, once that all came, it came with a different bag of tricks that I wasn't used to. One of the deals that I made at UNLV was listen, I'll play and we can do a little bit of local press, but I don't really want to talk about this. And
Right.
They sort of honored that. Professional soccer is a little different. So I found myself, as an example, we play in Tacoma one day, and then we'd have 2 days off and travel to San Diego. And so the guys would travel. They'd get to San Diego early. They'd have a day off. They'd go golf, and then the next day they'd play. And that was how it sort of worked, except for Simon, who left Tacoma and then flew to St. Louis to do a TV interview, and then flew to San Diego the morning of the game and did more PR and interviews, and then played the game, and then after the game did more interviews, and then the next day when the team went to Kansas City and had 2 more days off, Simon got to fly to New York and do media, and so it became a whole different thing for me, and it was okay to begin with, sort of exciting, right? And then after about a month, you're like, this sucks. This is no good. I don't really want to be the heart guy. Someone else be the heart guy. But by that time, the cat was out of the bag, and there was, you can just imagine it was nuts. And I knew that I had a problem 2 years in when we had 3 days off in the middle of, doesn't matter, February or something like that.
Yeah.
And I found myself in Milan, Italy. This is when I was playing for Cleveland. So we had just finished a game in, let's say, Kansas City again. And I found myself in Milan, Italy, for 3 days promoting the World Cup for '94 on an Italian talk show in Italian, of which I don't speak. And I said to myself, what is going on here? This is ridiculous. So that's what it came down to. So at that point, I'm like, this is great. I love playing, and it's nice, but I'm never ever going to be anything but the heart guy. Yeah. That sucked.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about. Let's get back to the athletic side, right? As an athlete, I mean, because you were a phenomenal. You're still a phenomenal athlete, but talk to us about. You had to overcome more than the average athlete out there competing at the collegiate or professional level. What kept you going as an athlete, not with the heart guy, but as an athlete as far as training and wanting to win? Was it winning? Was it trying to get a championship? What was it for you that kept you going athletically?
Well, it's interesting because, frankly, although you might recall differently, I don't think I was a very good teammate. I was very selfish. I was a good teammate in the sense that I was, personable and I got along with the guys and all that stuff. But I played sports because the conflict that I had with sports was that I was so ultra competitive that I didn't want to be friends with anybody. I didn't want to be friends with my teammates, although I was. I didn't want to be friends with not with my competitors. I viewed everyone as the enemy and that I had to succeed. And so that's what drove me. What drove me is the lessons that I learned when I was a kid. I always competed. I love my brothers. But I competed with them every single day as it relates to everything, how much food you can get, how you can get to school quicker, how you can date a girl, anything. I competed. So I took that same thing and I transferred it to my teammates, and my teammates don't think I'm a bad guy. I mean, that's not the point. But I viewed everybody as someone I'm competing against. And that was important for me. I was definitely very focused on being better than everyone else, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It makes very sense. And I think
awful.
No, it doesn't at all. I think, and that's what really helped our team. I think those 2 years at UNLV to help us do as well as we did. I think without that mindset, we may have just been another average, Division I team. But we did things that the UNLV program hadn't done in a long time, and I think it has to do, looking back on it, from what you're talking about right now, because that carried over. I mean, our 2 years there we had some very competitive guys on that team, and I think you were leading the charge there. Simon, let's talk a little bit about now as you started winding down your athletic career and we're starting to think about what's next. At what point or what event did you realize I'm not going to play forever? I need to do something else. Do you remember what was going on or what happened in that time span?
Well, I do, and it's that night in Italy when I was sitting there on this TV show with headphones on, with everything being translated. I made a decision then and there. I played for another season after that, but I made a decision right there and then that I got to find a way out of this. This has got to end. 99% of the athletes in the world sort of get kicked out of their sport. I was one of the 1%. I walked away. I was happy to walk away. It was time. it was time for me to, get married to my then girlfriend Kelly and settle down and, figure out what's next. So I knew that I was leaving. I was good to leave, but as you say, where you land is a whole different animal, right? Where do you land?
Did you have a game plan for what was next, or were you saying, I just need to get out of this, and whatever is next it's got to be better than what I'm going through right now, so let's just get out there and see what happens? Or did you have a game plan knowing exactly what you wanted to do next?
Well, I had a short-term game plan. I'd left school early, so I knew I had to graduate. So I knew I had to move back to Las Vegas, and I knew I had to finish my education. So, we were still young and we were young and dumb and full of piss and vinegar. So we moved to Vegas, and I finished my degree, and I worked at the university in the athletic department, and sort of cliche stuff that jocks do. And after about 6 months or a year of working at the university in the athletic department, there was nowhere for me to channel my competitive spirit. And this energy, you can't compete with people you work with. You can't crush them like you do athletically.
Right.
And against opponents, and so there was nowhere for this energy to go. So I did learn pretty quickly that I needed to find an outlet for this energy. And so probably like most athletes, we sort of meander a little bit at the beginning. I'm not as much a meanderer as most, so I had a good plan. Graduate college. I worked at the university for a little bit, and then I got recruited by a company to sell stuff, sort of be a hardcore sales guy. And that fed that competitive spirit, because now I got to compete against guys who sat next to me who were also sales guys. And so I had guys I could crush. So I like that.
You're listening to the Championship Showcase, Secrets for Success, from the playing field of competition to the field of life. We're speaking with Simon Keith. And Simon, so now you had an outlet for that competitive drive. How did you go from being a competitive sales guy to starting the Simon Keith Foundation?
So I learned quickly. I learned a couple things. I sold for this guy for a couple years, and I figured out that, wait a minute, he's driving a nicer car than me. He comes in at 11. He leaves at 2. He plays golf most days. And here I am working 12, 14 hours a day, busting my ass. Something's wrong with this equation. So I figured I want to be him and have guys like me work for me. So that was sort of a clenching moment when I decided, a couple of years after I finished playing soccer, and I had a mortgage then and a couple kids, and life on the outside seemed pretty good. And I jumped off the cliff and I started my own company. And with really nothing. I had no money. I had a client or two, and I just jumped off a cliff. And talk about being, having nerves and being nerve-wracking. That's as nerve-wracking as it gets, not knowing first how you're going to pay your mortgage, and then I had some success. And I tell people all the time, if you want to be an entrepreneur, be this guy. Be the day before payrolls due, and your payroll for that 2 weeks is $135,000, and you have $70,000 in the bank. That's an entrepreneur,
right?
And and until you've been in those situations, those moments, you don't figure it out. So over the next 15 years, I started and built 4 different companies. All of them were either reasonably successful or incredibly successful. I built companies that had annual revenues from as low as $5 to $10 million, as high as $300 million. So things went well. I grew as I went through it. Forget about stuff you read in the books. I mean, you read books, yes, but until you're actually in the game and you're in the business, you don't learn what you need to.
Yeah.
So I built these companies, and life is pretty good. Life's good, and I decided in 2011 that even for Cavalier Simon, 25 years with someone else's ticker is a long time, and maybe I should go find out where it came from. And so I did, and as part of that was the impetus of writing the book, and then starting the foundation, and more importantly, helping other other kids who find themselves on the short end of the stick with having to have an organ transplant, and trying to encourage them to get back to life and crush it again.
Yeah, amazing stuff, Simon. How important is it to have a support team around you that you trust and can bounce ideas off of or go to when things get tough? How important is that, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important, as certainly for us athletes who are used to that locker room environment.
Yeah.
I was fortunate because I played a lot of my career with my brother, so I was very close with him. So when I transitioned out of sports, I still had him, even though he's a bit of a jackal, but we won't talk about that. Did I say that? Yeah, okay.
No, that's okay.
And of course, I got my wife who's been my partner for, 25 years now, and it's important. The other thing for me that drove me was, when you have little kids and they're relying on you, you have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, you got to show up. You got to perform. So although they provide support, they also provided for me the competitiveness and the motivation to get out there.
Right. So if you haven't read the book, Heart for the Game is Simon's book. You talk about learning to heal from the inside out. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think I spent my life with people asking me this question, right? They say, Simon, how are you? And I say, fine. And then they tilt their head to the left or the right, and they say, no, really, how are you?
Right. How are you?
Like there's some psychological answer they're looking for. And I've literally, so this psychological, are you fine? Yeah, I'm fine. And this has been going on for 25 years. I mean, literally every single person I meet does the same thing. How are you? I'm fine. No, really, how are you?
Yeah. I'm
fine. Really, I'm fine. And so I had to learn to accept that people viewed me as something different than themselves, and I needed to reconcile that in my brain and who I was. And after 25 years, I decided that I would embrace that, and that was the healing that I'm talking about. For most of the 25 years prior to that, I didn't talk about my transplant. I didn't talk to people about it. I didn't acknowledge it. I denied it. I mean, you saw me when I played, right? Did I really want to talk about it? Hell no. Yeah. So that's what I mean by it's been a journey for me personally to heal and get to where I'm at today.
Well, again, I know in the ESPN thing you mentioned that you were kind of a jerk or something, and for your teammates, at least from my perspective, I never saw you like that. I saw you as a competitor who didn't want to be treated differently on the field or off the field, and just want to be one of the guys. And hopefully we treated you like that, and because that's the way I still see you like that. I don't see you any other way. But talking more about this transition phase, do you think it's as a big of a deal out there amongst athletes, or do you think some people just make it a bigger deal than what it really is?
Well, I think it's a huge deal. I think it's a huge deal. I think the great majority of athletes really struggle with it, because at the very beginning, the very beginning can last, 1 month, 1 year, or 1 decade. Depends on who you are. I think people just don't know what to do. Like, they don't know what to do. They literally don't know what to do. Like, what do I go apply for a job at Starbucks? Do I become a multi-level marketer? What do I do? Somebody tell me what to do. And they're used to coaches telling them what to do for the last 20 years, 25 years, 30 years of their life. So unless you're, it's not a question of being strong. It's not a question of being intelligent. It really comes down to, for me, it comes down to fear, right? And fear is a killer, man. It is an absolute killer. It's a yellow light. And as we know, most people don't move on yellow lights. People on red don't move at all. People on yellow are usually on yellow because of fear. And so one of the things I talk about is that, real leaders and real business guys, they always keep the light on green. Keep the light on green. So don't slow down. If you think you should be in multi-level marketing, go green, man. If you think you need to be at Starbucks, go green. Whatever it is. But not doing anything is the real issue.
How important do you think it is to be okay with failure in either athletics or in business? Because, well, let me ask you, and then I'll tell you what I think. But what comes up for you when we talk about failure?
Failure is part of the game, right? I mean, it's part of all games. I love failing, but as you get older and you do more things and you become smarter and more well-rounded, failure, in my opinion, becomes less likely. Not because you're playing it safer, but because you've already been in those situations. But when you're early in your business career, failure is something that happens daily, it seems like.
And it's almost a key, isn't it, to learning? Because without it, then how do you know if you're on the right track or off the track? So that's kind of where I was going. I think you nailed it perfectly. We're just about out of time, but a couple last questions. Knowing what you know now about life and business, if you had 5 minutes with an athlete who was either about to go into their transition into something new, or somebody who was currently in it, or somebody that was struggling in their transition, what 3 things would you tell them if you had 5 minutes to share with them?
Okay. Interesting question. Haven't seen this question before. So number 1 is nobody cares about how good you were as an athlete. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It will get you through the open door, but once you're inside the room, you better have some more skills that are value added. Nobody cares that you scored the goal. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Sorry, nobody cares. And people don't want to hear that, right? People want to talk about their Super Bowl ring and how they won the. Nobody cares. They don't care. Tell me how you're going to make me more money. That's what business is about.
Yeah.
So that's number 1. Number 2 is turn the list upside down. And what I mean by that is, most people on a Sunday night, as they prepare for the week, they write out their list of things to do, right? Okay. Call mom, get on Facebook, call Simon, set him up for a radio show, blah, 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 whatever the list is, right? And at the very bottom, you list your really difficult, life-changing, life-altering events. And inevitably, you don't get to those because you're busy ticking off the easy things on the top of the list. And someone taught me this like 25 years ago, and they said, what would your life look like if you turn the list upside down and put all the crap, easy stuff at the bottom and put the really life-changing, difficult stuff at the top? And so I incorporated that in my life 25 years ago, and it's made all the difference because what happens is once you knock 1 or 2 or 3 of the big and chunky, life-changing things off your list, all the stuff at the bottom takes care of itself.
Okay.
Find it really interesting. Yeah. So that's 2. The third one is, let's see, I've insulted people. So 1, no one cares. 2, turn your list upside down. And the other one is I probably still stick with, keep the light green. Go, man. What are you waiting for? Go.
Nice. Okay. Got it. Excellent stuff. That's so cool. All right. So last question, then I'll have some closing thoughts for you. But here's the last question. What do you see your role as a leader, and what is your legacy that you want to leave for others? And I think anyway, I'll let you answer. So what do you see your role as a leader, and what is your legacy that you want to leave others?
Okay. So my role as a leader is very simple: to make others around me better than even they think they can be. Nice. Easy definition. Okay. My legacy, I've defined it. I've spent a few years now really thinking about what my legacy is going to be, what I want it to be, and my legacy is, and it's okay to say these things out loud, by the way. My legacy is I want to be the guy who changes organ donation and transplantation in the United States forever.
Wow. Okay. That's great, man. That's great. Are you on track?
Totally.
What would you do different? Let me ask you this. Would you do anything different throughout your life, or would you keep it exactly the way it's gone?
I really wish I would have played in the World Cup.
Okay. All right.
Instead of instead of sitting in a hospital in England getting a new ticker, but that's all worked out. Nah, it's all good, man. I got no complaints and no regrets. Zero. It's all good.
Well, listen, you're amazing, man. Well, everybody, we certainly hope you've enjoyed our conversation with the incredible Simon Keith. I know I have. You've been listening to the Championship Showcase, Secrets for Success, from the playing field of competition to the field of life. Before we officially sign off, Simon, any last thoughts you have for our listeners?
I urge your listeners to go on to UNLV Soccer and see if Dominic ever scored a goal.
Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Who is the only former UNLV player to score a hat trick in his pro debut? Let me ask you that question.
Rob Ryerson.
Oh, come on, Rob. We want to thank Simon Keith for joining us. We encourage those of you who feel you might need some assistance through your career transition, please reach out, get the necessary help you need. You have purpose and you have value. For Simon Keith, Dominic Militello, for now, we wish you all the best always. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.